What's up, YouTube? We are back here at Blitz Games. Today we will be going through a full tutorial of Lorcana, the trading card game by Disney. For all you newer players that want to learn how to play, this is the right spot for you. I have really been enjoying this game, but let's not waste any time and let's jump right into how to play Lorcana. Alright, so let's start with the layout of the card itself. So let's look at Perdita here first. This is her name, followed by Devoted Mother. That is who she is. This second part could change if there is another Perdita card, and then that would be actually a separate card. Now at the top left, this is the ink cost of the card. So Perdita costs 6 to play. Look over here, Patch costs 4 to play. Notice Patches and Perditas do look different. So the gold ring that's around Patches means that he is inkable, while Perdita is not. Now I will go over this more later, but in simple terms what this means is that Patch is able to be used in order to pay for other characters or other cards, while Perdita cannot. Now let's go ahead and look at the color itself. So as you see, this is yellow, which also pertains to this symbol right here. It is part of the amber cards. All of these four, notice, have the same symbol, same color. I will go over the other ink colors in a little bit. Next, we have the keywords here. So Perdita is Storyborn and a hero. Notice Piglet has a bunch more: Dreamborn, hero, pirate, captain. So these can just kind of come up on other cards. So for instance, there could be a card that says if you have a captain in play, which Piglet is, then this happens. So that's when that would become important. Now if we look to the right, back to Perdita, this 1 signifies her strength. That is how much damage that she will do to another character when attacking or defending. And then this 6 is her willpower. If 6 or more damage is dealt to her and she doesn't have any other perks, then she will be moved into the discard pile and she will no longer be in play. Now if we look down here, we see special ability. So her special ability is called Come Along Children. When you play this character and whenever she quests, which I will go over in a little bit too, you may play a character with cost 2 or less from your discard for free. Now if we look over here at Orbelt, notice he doesn't have any special abilities. So when you see something blank like this, that's all that means, is that they don't have any special abilities. Next, these 2 pips over here, that is her questing ability. So when she quests, she will gain 2 lore, which lore is how you win the game. I will also go over that soon. Patch only quests for 1 along with Orbelt and Piglet. But Piglet's special ability, while you have 2 or more other characters in play, this character gets +2 lore. So if Piglet meets that condition, Piglet will also actually quest for 3 instead of 1. 1 + 2 gets you that 3. Then below that, we see the flavor text. So that's just something unique to each card. It doesn't actually pertain to the game. It's just something that's cool. Underneath that, in the bottom left corner, so that is the number card it is. So this is card number 15 out of 204 in the set that it came out in, which is right here, that number 3. Perdita and all the rest of these cards you see on the screen are in the 3rd set. As of the recording of this video, there are only 3 sets. This EN just means that this card is in English. And then above that, you see the artist, the person that drew Perdita's artwork. And then lastly, over here, we see this symbol here. This is the rarity. So we have Patch here is a common. Then if we scroll down here, Pluto, that is an uncommon. Moving higher in rarity, we have this Pluto. Notice there are 2 different Plutos with different subs here. Determined Defender versus Friendly Pooch. This is a rare. Notice the triangle. The easy way to remember from rare on is just add 1 more side, and the more sides it has, the more rare it is. So this is rare. Pongo here has 4 sides. That's a super rare. back up here to Perdita. Notice the 5 sides, that is called a legendary. And then the most rare thing has 6 sides. You won't see any on the screen here, but that is your enchanted cards, which are extremely difficult to find. Now, if you notice in the top right here, so this is the color that we're looking at. It is yellow, which is also called amber. The other 5, we have purple, which is called amethyst, which is this symbol. We have green, which is emerald. We have red, which is ruby. We have blue, which is sapphire. And then we have gray, which is called steel. Now, the important thing is that in any one deck, you are only allowed to have 2 different ink types. So you could have yellow and purple or green and red, but you cannot have 3 or more. You are allowed to have 1, but there's really no point in just having 1 color. As you'll see later, when you build decks, typically you won't see that. Actually, I've never seen it. Next, let's go ahead and look at some of the keywords that you will see on the cards themselves. So these will come up later, and as they come up, I will re-explain them as they take a little bit to get used to. But just to give you an introduction to the important ones, so we have bodyguard. That means that this character may enter play exerted, which is sideways. An opposing character who challenges one of your characters. Challenge is kind of like attack. One of your characters must choose one with bodyguard if able. So if a bodyguard is out, a character has to challenge or attack the bodyguard before they can attack characters that do not have bodyguard. Next, we have challenger. So challenger +2. So when challenging or attacking another character, this character gets +2, and that's attack or strength. Next, we have evasive. Only characters with evasive can challenge this character. If you're familiar with Magic, I could like to compare this with flying. So only evasive characters can challenge or attack characters that have evasive. Now, the vice versa there is not true. So evasive characters can challenge characters without evasive. It only works one way there, not both. So next we have reckless. So anyone with reckless has to challenge if they are able to. If there's anyone that they can challenge, they need to do so. Next, this actually has 2 special abilities. This little symbol right here just means that you have to exert that character in order to use it. So this costs 1 ink, and then chosen character gains rush. So rush is your keyword there. That means that they can challenge the turn that they are played. Normally, when you play a character, they cannot challenge until the following turn. They call that the ink is drying. So the turn that you play a character, they cannot quest and they cannot challenge. They can use other abilities that do not require them to be exerted, but anything that needs to be exerted, you cannot do it on that turn. Next, we have shift. So shift 6 means that you can pay 6 ink to play this on top of one of your characters. So if you have a character, and I will go back to the other to show you an example in a second of that, but let's finish this out first. We have support. Support means that whenever this character quests, you may add their attack or strength to another chosen character's strength this turn. So if you quest with a character that has 2 strength, you can then give that 2 strength to a different character for the rest of the turn if you so choose. Next and lastly, we have ward. This means that opponents cannot choose this character except to challenge it. So if you have any sort of action, so say you had an action that said deal 2 damage to target character, you cannot do that to a character that has ward. Going back to the shift situation, so that means, so let's say we had Pluto, the friendly pooch, out. You played him for 1 ink, and then you had him out. Then later on, this Pluto Determined Defender, notice he has shift 5. You may pay 5 ink to play this on top of one of your characters named Pluto. So rather than pay 7 for this Pluto, you can pay 5, and then he would get placed directly on top of this Pluto. Now, another exception there, just to think of, is that just because you just played this Pluto doesn't mean that he can't attack or use an ability this turn. So he is able to be exerted because this Pluto would happen to already be in play that turn if you had him in play from a different turn. If you had just played this Pluto as well, then that would not be the case. But if you played this Pluto one turn, this Pluto the next turn, you could still quest for 2 on that first turn that you played this big Pluto and shifted him onto the smaller one. Now, another thing that I want to touch on, and Pongo is a fantastic example of that, I did mention that the ink is drying the first turn you play them, but that's only for abilities that you need to exert. So this ability here, once per turn, you may pay 2 ink to reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck. So notice there is no exert symbol like Pluto has here. So this can be used the first turn that you put him into play. Now, I know this is a lot right now. Hopefully, as the video goes on, it will make more sense, and it does take a lot of practice to get used to all these rules. But if you have any questions or something is confusing, feel free to put it down in the comments below, and we'll be happy to answer it. And I'm sure some of our wonderful community members will also be happy to answer you if I don't happen to get to it in time. Okay, next let's go over the different types of cards. So all the cards that I've showed you so far have been characters. Characters have their name here. They're typically either Dreamborn, Storyborn, or Floodborn. You'll see that there. And they all have a strength and a willpower here. So these ones look like that. Then we have actions. Notice there's no strength or willpower on the card. Actions, you pay the cost, they're played, and then they get immediately put into your discard. So this particular action, 99 puppies, whenever one of your characters quests this turn, gain 1 lore, and then you would just put this directly into your discard. Now, another type of action, this one says action song. It is exactly the same thing as the previous action that we just went over. The only difference with a song is that it can actually be paid for by a character that you have in play. Now, it does need to be a character that the ink has dried, because this is something that you need to exert it for. But as you see here, a character with cost 3 or more can exert to sing this song for free. So if you had something like, say, this Tinkerbell out, which costs 4, this says cost 3 or more, so you could exert Tinkerbell to play this, and then you would not have to use any of your ink to play that card. Next, we have items. So items you just put into play. So for cleansing rainwater, we would pay 2 ink, and it would just get put directly in play, and it stays there unless something tells you to put it into your discard pile, like this does here. So you can use it, banish this item, remove up to 2 damage from each of your characters. Now, items work differently from characters. Their ink does not need to dry. They can be used immediately no matter what, as long as you can fulfill whatever the requirement is. And lastly, we have locations. That they're the newest thing in the game. So locations, similar to items, you pay its ink cost. So notice Neverland costs 1 to play. You'll put it into play. Now, these numbers here, this 1 means that it costs 1 ink to move a character there. You can move as many characters as you like there, but you have to pay 1 ink every time you want to move one there. You cannot move a character off a location unless there is another location to move it to. Now, that 4 you see at the top there in the middle, that is its toughness. Similar to a character, it has its toughness, and it takes 4 or more damage in order to send Neverland to the discard. And then lastly, you'll see the ink pip there at the bottom right of the card. It has 1, so at the beginning of every turn, you gain however many lore symbols you see there. So for Neverland, you gain 1 lore per turn. Now sometimes locations will have special abilities. It will tell you exactly what that is in the middle of the text. Now locations do not deal damage back to the character that challenges them. The challenging character only does damage to the location. Alright, next let's move into the actual deck and deck building. So each deck needs to have at least 60 cards in it. You can have as many cards as you want. You want to make a deck with 1,000 cards, go for it. Now, there can only be 2 colors in it, so 2 ink types, like I mentioned before. So this particular deck that I'm showing you, there are 30 purple cards and 30 gray cards. If I wanted to have 59 purple cards and 1 gray card, that's perfectly fine as well. Now you can only have 4 of each individual card. So notice this is Pixelborn you're seeing here on the screen. It is the online client. So if you'd like to play online, you can use that, and I can link that below if you're interested. Now for this, I have 4 of the Blue Fairy, but I only have 2 Madam Mim's Snake, and that's perfectly fine. I can have 1 of a card, I can have 4 of a card, I cannot have 5 in an individual card. Now you do notice I have 3 of this Merlin Goat, and I have 4 of this Merlin Rabbit. Now that's perfectly okay. You can have 4 of every kind of card as long as they are different cards. So if there are 8 different Merlins, I could have 4 of each of those Merlins in my deck. Now let's get into some gameplay just to show you guys how it works. So this again is Pixelborn. I will link that down below how to get this. So now I'm going first in this game. So the way it works is you take your deck, which however many cards are in it, you're going to shuffle it, and you're going to draw 7 cards. So you'll see that happen here. So this is my 7 cards. Now we're able to just once, sort of like a mulligan, choose any number of cards that we want, and we can send them back to the deck. So we put those off to the side, and then we replace those cards by drawing those new cards, and then we reshuffle our deck. So in this case, let's see how many cards we get rid of. We're getting rid of Pongo, Madame Medusa. Get rid of those 6. So those 6 are going to get sent back, and then we're going to draw 6 new cards to replace them, and then our deck gets reshuffled, and that's our opening hand. Now the player that goes first does not get to draw on their first turn. So the rule is ready, set, draw. So that what that means is ready just means that anything that you have on your side of the field that is exerted at the beginning of every turn, you're going to unexert it or ready it. So you're going to turn it back face up. Then second there is the set part. That just means if you have any abilities or anything that needs to be done at the beginning of your turn. So for instance, that Pluto that I showed you before says at the beginning of your turn, you may remove 3 damage, up to 3 damage from Pluto. You would do that during the set phase of Ready, Set, Draw. Then your draw phase, you just draw 1 card from the top of your deck. So you go ahead and do those 3 things. Then the rest of your turn, you can do it in any order that you want, whatever you want. So that includes questing, that includes attacking, that includes playing new cards. You can do that in any order the rest of your turn after that Ready, Set, Draw. But again, the player that goes first, notice I did not draw a new card. So now what I'm doing there, Maui is inkable. Notice he has that gold ring. You are allowed to ink 1 card per turn, unless another card says so, of course. But if there are no other cards in play, you can ink 1 card per turn. So we're going to go ahead and ink Maui. So that gets us 1 ink, and then we play our Minnie Mouse. So notice Minnie Mouse had cost 1, so we've used up that 1 ink that we just put into our inkwell here, and then played out Minnie Mouse. Now, if you were not in Pixelborn, the card that you inked would go right here, and then you would just exert it, or again, turn it sideways in order to play out your Minnie Mouse. Now, that's all I can do for that turn. so I pass the turn to the opponent. And then on our next turn, this would go back to 1 out of 1 because during the ready phase, we would ready our ink, and then it would be available to use for that turn. Next, this is the following turn. Notice I now have 2 ink in this game. It's the same game. So Minnie Mouse, her ink has dried. She wasn't able to quest the turn before, but this turn, I can go ahead and quest with her. And notice her quest, she gets 1 lore based on the 1 pip that's on the side of her card. So I just exert her, or again turn her sideways, and then I'm able to get to 1. Now the goal of this game is to get to 20 lore. So the first person to get to 20 lore would win the game. And it stops right there once someone has 20 or more lore. If you get to say 24 lore by 1 character, then that's fine. That's still winning. You don't need exactly 20, just 20 or more. Now again, later in this game, I'm going to show you how to challenge. Now, in order to challenge a character, that character has to already be exerted. So this Grammatala here, because she is not exerted, cannot be targeted by an attack unless a character, again, has a special ability that says differently. This Hiram Flaversham can be challenged because he is exerted. And all of my characters here, notice I have 3 of them, they all are exerted and can all be challenged. So they are going to go ahead and take their Grammatala, they exert their Grammatala, and they attack Baloo. So Baloo, if you can see it there, he has 0 strength and 3 willpower. Grammatala has 3 strength and 3 willpower. So when Grammatala challenges Baloo, they do their damage in strength to each other. So Grammatala does 3 damage to Baloo. Baloo does 0 damage back to Grammatala. Now, 3 damage is equal to or greater than Baloo's willpower. So Baloo will then be sent to the discard pile, and he is what's called banished. Now, Grammatala doesn't take any damage here. If she had, so say, just let's say Baloo had 1 strength, he would do his 1 damage back to Grammatala, and that damage does stay there. The damage does not come off between turns. The only way to get rid of damage is either to A, bring the card back to your hand, and damage will go away that way, or there are cards that say this character can remove X amount of damage from your character, and then you can remove the damage that way. Later in that same game, we are now, notice we have 19 lore, the opponent has 12 lore. It is going to be our turn. So on our turn, we can go ahead and quest with Pongo or Mother Gothel here, go to 20, and then officially win the game. Our opponent knew that, so they just resigned rather than let us quest there. But then once you hit that 20 lore, you win the game. And that victory symbol, oh so sweet, comes up, and then that's how you know that you've won the game, and it's over, and you can go on to the next one. Now I know that was short and sweet, and probably a lot to take in. At first, I know it can sound complicated, but once you really get going, the game does become quite simple. As I said before, if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Important part is, now you know the basics, so get out there, so try some things, and have fun with the game. There are 2 videos here that you can go ahead and watch if you want to see some gameplay, and that way you can kind of get more of a feel of how the game works before jumping into it. But if not, we will see you again next time.